In an earlier video, I spoke about a story that makes it clear why it's important to do more rather than, wait for perfection. If you want to create something, create it and keep on creating it and create as much as you can, rather than spending all your time on this one great thing. And one of the reasons why is this common pattern in nature called the Pareto principle. Pareto principle is fascinating. It's this idea that in any domain, roughly speaking, any domain, right, 80% of the inputs 80% of the outcome comes from only 20% of the inputs. And this exists across the board. You see in the United States, and 80-20 is called the 80-20 rule, but 80-20 is just a general guiding principle, right? So you see it in the United States with the wealth gap, right? So it's like the top, 1% of people own more wealth than like 50% of most people, right? You see it in the mass of stars in the solar system, right? The top 80% of, the top 20% of stars have like 80% of the mass in the universe. And this makes sense because mass gravitates to the things that are already massive. That's the nature of gravity. The bigger something is, the more gravity it has, the more it pulls something in from it. But I believe you see it in the creative domain as well. So 80% of your creative efforts, keep getting the numbers backward, 20% of your creative efforts lead to the 80% of what makes something good. And there's the inverse pattern where, like the last 5% of doing something, that tying up the loose ends, that's the hardest part. But it's a fascinating idea because if let's take those numbers for granted, right? 20% of your inputs lead to 80% of what makes something magical. Then that means 1/5 of your time is that valuable part, that ultimately valuable part. And the other 4/5 of it are, simply put, less valuable than it could be, right? We can call it not valuable, although they certainly are. It's good to tie things up together, and it's important. But the idea is you can attach this with another principle, which is opportunity cost. It's like anytime you're doing something, you're necessarily sacrificing everything else that you could be doing. If I choose to draw a picture of a face, I'm not drawing a picture of a tree. I'm not drawing a picture of a house. I'm not eating food. I'm not, making a video at the same time. You do one thing at a time. Everything costs time. You always have an amount of tension that you can apply to something in a given time. So let's say you choose to bring something to perfection. You pass that 20%. That makes it great. And now you've got the other 4/5 of the way that you have to go to make something complete. Well, think of all the other things that you could be doing. And that 4/5 of the time, that's 1/5 that you could be applying to different ideas, different products, different videos, different creations, right? And I think that's the magic of this process that I'm doing, this challenge, 7/7, make 7 videos a day, every day for 7 days. It's like I have to spill everything out into one video and just move on. I don't get to craft it and tie up the knots. So, I don't get to tie up the loose ends. So it means like I only have that first 20% for each video, right? 7 videos in a row, I've only got that 20%. Hope that made sense, and I'm gonna reiterate just so I can clarify, mostly for myself. It's this idea that your first initial efforts, right, that are going to be the most important, and anything beyond that improves the product. Sure, improves the final output, but takes away the time that you could be spending on making the most important parts of the next things that you want to create. So, back to that story, if you watched the earlier video about the pottery students, who made all, as many pots as they could compared to the students who were tasked making just one great one. They were able to spend that time learning, from that 20% that made that pottery great, without spending all that extra time on that perfection. And as a result, they got to grow faster than the people who cared too much about perfection. So don't be so hard on yourself. That's my message to me. See ya.